continue on with our Reckless Speculation Thursday, presented by our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company. The Federated Challenge is taking place later on this month, and Federated has helped raise, with their partners and connections, $44 million since 2005 for Big Brothers Big Sisters, which is a one-to-one mentoring relationship platform that helps connect bigs with kids in need. And if you want to find out how you can get involved, go to federatedchallenge.org to help with a great organization. So, boys, we'll get to old tweets exposed here as well, but I don't know if this falls under the I guess it's kind of reckless speculation. It's more speculating on, will this be an innovative thing that the Timberwolves are doing, or will it be a train wreck and a disaster? Mm-hmm. And John Hollinger from The Athletic, who used to be an analytics geek at ESPN.com and then was in the Memphis Grizzlies front office for a few years, he wrote this article, I think last night or this morning, entitled, "The Timberwolves' Big Ball Experiment is either the NBA's future or a future disaster." I want to read you a couple paragraphs here and get your guys' thoughts on this. All right.
Cool.
Teams could play small ball on Utah because they didn't fear Gobert's post-ups on the other end. This isn't the case once you put Towns next to him. Now, any cute small ball lineup an opponent puts out there must deal with Karl Anthony Towns mashing them on the block on offense.
Mm-hmm.
I'll even argue, like, it just makes it easier to shoot threes without contested hands in your face because the opposing teams are smaller. Great. The Wolves' bet is, sure, maybe you can score on Gobert in a 5-out small ball system, but Towns will score on you so much at the other end that you'll still lose the trade-off. Mm-hmm. The big picture takeaway from Minnesota's defiant spit-into-the-wind Gobert trade is that very few other teams, if any, would have done this type of deal in 2022, even setting aside the breathtaking cost. They're saying just from a strategy standpoint,
correct,
that a lot of teams would say, ugh, too risky.
Agreed.
And yet it's possible the Wolves are onto something. Call it a last stand or a new dawn for big ball, if you will. Nobody is quite willing to join Minnesota and go all in on this idea just yet, but the pairing of a shot-blocking center with a high-skill center has the potential to be the league's biggest paradigm shift or its biggest disaster. Get your popcorn while we find out.
Okay, that's a really, really in-depth, great way of saying what I've been saying since the trade came down, which is Karl Anthony Towns. This is on him. He has the ability and talent. He is not he is a very big human being, okay? But he has God-given skills that are unlike anyone for the most part we've seen. So this is why I keep coming back to, this is the challenge now to Towns. He is having everything he doesn't like to do taken off his plate. Like all of the carrots are gone, man. The carrots are gone. The string beans, they're gone. All of it's off his plate.
String beans are underrated. A little sea
I agree.
salt on them.
I like carrots too. But my point is, his plate now is nothing but steaks and dessert, and this is on him now to thrive here. And I don't blame other teams for not embracing this because they don't have Towns. Like, I think what Conley and Finch are saying is, we've got this player who is incredibly special. Because Towns is. Like we can complain from now until opening night, and we're not wrong. He does things that drive you crazy. But when you look at the skill set, right? And what did we talk about last year? A lot of things that he didn't thrive on were more old school big man things. Well, that's all now off his plate. So I think and this is why I trust Conley, and I really do trust Finch a lot. Like, I think Finch is a very smart coach. Like,
I agree.
Like, in retrospect now, the Rosas move to break rules, I guess, or
they
not
just
incorporate,
railroaded all protocol.
Yeah. It makes perfect sense now. I love the fact that Chris Finch, when they started to talk about this, went to the whiteboard, because I mean, this guy's a hoops lifer, right? And basically said, okay, here's what we can do. Here's what we can do. So I don't think that this is going to open the door for everyone now to say, well, it worked for the Wolves, so it's going to work for us. I think the genius here is taking KAT and basically saying we want to, and we can in our minds, maximize his ability by making a move that most teams can't make. So I'm on board with this, and this is why, and this is now in my mind, Phil, up to KAT.
Yeah. Here's the other thing, because and Hollinger within the article, and he did acknowledge that it's not an apples to apples comparison, but he was looking at some of the other combinations of big men in the NBA. Well, the first one he referenced was Boston just went to the doorstep of an NBA championship with Al Horford and Robert Williams. Well, those guys are that's not a complete apples to apples for many different reasons, but it is a good example of, and those guys are a little shorter too, just maybe a little bit more nimble in certain areas. But the other example he brought up was in Indiana, Sabonis and Miles Turner were both on the court for several minutes per game together as bigs, and Indiana wasn't a great team. They were like a 25-win team, so you could say it really didn't work that well for Indiana. But this is my beef with, and again he said those guys aren't as good as Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns, but that's the entire point. You're not just taking any two big guys and putting them together. You're taking the greatest shooting 7-footer in the history of basketball percentage-wise, and putting him next to the greatest rim protector of the last 20 years in the NBA. So it's one thing if you put JaVale McGee next to somebody or Anthony Davis or whatever. This isn't JaVale McGee. This is a first ballot basketball Hall of Famer who's in his prime and just put up career highs in player efficiency rating and block percentage and rebounding percentage, et cetera, et cetera. Next to Karl Anthony Towns, who obviously my beefs with his childish demeanor on the court have been well documented on this show. But at the end of the day, he is a unicorn, offensively skilled player that can absolutely take small ball lineups to, behind the woodshed on offense. And so the more I think about this, like we're almost, when was that trade? 6 days ago? It was on Friday. Every single day, I love this trade more. Hearing from different people, both within the Wolves and outside the organization, literally watching YouTube videos of why the Utah Jazz melted down in some of these playoff games and stuff. There's answers to every question.
Right.
Let's go back to the premise that John Hollinger paints, which is if there are defensive deficiencies, can the Wolves offset it with size and skill on offense? So you're going to run a small ball lineup out against the Wolves. Let's focus on that small ball lineup playing defense against the Timberwolves. Who's going to grab rebounds? The Wolves are going to have offensive rebounding parties against small ball lineups when those lineups are trying to play defense against Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns. They're going to lead the league in offensive rebounds if they were to play small ball lineups, right? Okay, you're going to run let's say a 6'8" center out there in a small ball lineup, or a 6'7" guy. Karl Anthony Towns is going to post him up and just go to the low block. Or you're going to run pick and roll and get Rudy Gobert with those go-go gadget 8-foot wingspan arms up in the air for either lobs or just dump passes inside. So offensively, and again, you're not replacing a shooter in your starting lineup with Gobert. You're replacing Jared Vanderbilt with Gobert, a guy that also wasn't someone you had to account for on offense. So offensively, right. I don't think there's really any questions. I think these guys are going to play really well off each other.
And to go beyond those two, I would say incorporate D'Lo as well. Because, again, we all assumed, including me, well, he got benched at the end of the playoff series and things didn't go well and he's probably gone. And I think that was a safe assumption. But I think what they thought was, okay, D'Lo is still a good option. He can shoot. He clearly needs to be a bit more engaged consistently, but that's true of lots of guys. What can we do again to maximize him? And Gobert is going to do that. I mean, when you think about the fact, Finch told those guys that there were five last year.
Lob
dunks. 5 of them. That's ridiculous. And again, that's probably not KAT's strength. So
Ricky
now
Rubio, by the way, would be highly offended by this because he was the centerpiece of Lava Soda.
Exactly right. But that's important. So I think, again, 2 veteran basketball guys who are smart have said, if we trade D'Lo right now, we're not going to get it's not going to go well. We'll dump him, but it's not going to go well. What can we do to actually, and in a contract year, and this is the genius of it, in what's certainly going to be a contract year, what can we do to bring out his best when he's going to want to give his best too? I think this trade, where this trade to me is very different than just a big splash signing or big splash trade that sort of is like, oh, this is exciting, is this one. I think it's like a relationship in this sense. the first few dates are great, right? Like it's exciting and you're like, I really like this person. And then you start to find the flaws out. And a month or so in, you're like, this isn't what I thought. I think the Wolves have thought this out. And I think they know that this trade has every opportunity to long term benefit them. With Kirk, which, by the way, I'm not criticizing the signing, but we found out pretty quickly, the head coach doesn't really like him that much, and he doesn't really have a lot of use for a contract like that with a quarterback.
Yeah,
That's not
he
good.
wasn't involved in the lead up to it. He said, I don't want to do it, and they said,
exactly.
Too bad.
But I mean, Herschel, the coach, told the GM, he don't fit. Like, I'm a really good offensive guy. He don't fit. They did it. So, like, that's the first 2 weeks of dating is great, and then it's like, this is a disaster. This one, I think there's enough thought and that there was enough give and take on all sides that they have gone through how it's going to work. And I think we've learned that's extremely important.
Yeah, so the defensive side poses the most questions, right? And to Hollinger's point, it might be that, you're going to have some defensive hiccups and deficiencies, and you're not going to be able to cover as much space against small ball lineups, but maybe you make up for it by being so dominant offensively. Also worth noting, if you take Gobert and just put him off in the corner and open up the lane, let's say, all right, you're gonna have to guard a 3-point shooter out in the corner here, and the lane is open. Well, then you would be giving up just free layups and free dunks on a regular basis. So even if, like, you go back and watch that second half against the Clippers in Game 6, let's say Gobert would have just regularly gone down into the paint which he did, to protect the rim against guys who get past the perimeter defense, and then they kick it out for a wide open three. Well, there's going to be nights where you just kind of get away with it because teams aren't making 14 of 19 3-pointers. Maybe they only make 7. And maybe you can kind of live with that on certain nights. You're still at the mercy of whether they're hitting those 3-pointers or not. But the two biggest keys for the Wolves on defense, if KAT and Gobert are on the court at the same time, are going to be how well can the other 3 guys, Jaden McDaniels, Anthony Edwards, D'Angelo Russell, anybody else that would come in off the bench, prevent dribble penetration. We're getting way into the weeds here, but this is what's really fun. This is Timberwolves basketball in the weeds. Right?
And I also think, speaking from Chris Finch's perspective, okay, like we talk about what happens if you play that Clippers team or what happens when you play Golden State. Chris Finch just watched his team lose a playoff series to the Grizzlies that they would have won with Gobert.
Correct.
So he doesn't look at this and think, well, what's going to happen in 2025 in the Western Conference Finals? He's going to put in the Memphis tape and say, hold on a second here. And so I think the difference is we always think about, well, what's going to happen in the finals? And okay, that's a great thought. That's great fun. But the reality is coaches look at also what just transpired. And that Wolves team was not tough enough, was not defensively sound enough, and sure as hell couldn't protect the rim enough to win a series that, make no mistake, they should have won. And the other thing from Finch's perspective that's important is playoff series, I believe, in basketball and hockey often largely come down to, or can come down to, the very important part of coaching. And you have to have a plan. And Finch wouldn't say this, but I'm sure he goes back and watches the Jazz lose and thinks, oh, I would have done this or done that. Here's a wrinkle that they didn't do. So like because we always get into these big picture conversations, and the reality is these coaches get way into the minutia, which is incredibly important. And so Finch doesn't look and say, well, if that Clippers game, they were screwed, and Quinn Snyder did a great job. He privately says, here's what they should have done.
Yes.
So like there's a lot here to unpack, but I just go back to, I think the Wolves have probably, since the day it ended, Phil, watched that Grizzlies series and fixated on the fact that they blew an opportunity and how to stop that from happening again.
Speaking of just sort of coaching and usage, I want to read you 2 more paragraphs of this Hollinger piece. It just brings up a lot of really interesting hypotheticals here. We've seen some small smoke signals indicating that the big ball approach could actually work, even in the pace and space era of NBA basketball. Boston, for example, effectively amassed the league's best defense last season by playing 2 centers at the same time, Al Horford and Robert Williams. Theoretically, attacking Karl Anthony Towns on defense becomes harder now. Sure, opponents can force Towns to switch onto smaller, quicker players, But the flip side is that Towns can crowd the 3-point line with his praying mantis, 7.5, 8 foot, whatever his wingspan is, knowing that Gobert is lurking behind him, much the same way Horford magically looks more solid on defense when Williams is on the court as his backstop. Alternatively, the Wolves can have Towns hard trap ball screens. That's right, hard trap ball screens.
Football. Damn.
Knowing that Gobert lies in wait to swallow up any odd man rushes created in the half court by a short roll. How about that?
Football.
So you can essentially have Karl Anthony Towns just wreaking havoc. He's not a great defensive player, but could you use his size to sort of throw things off on the perimeter? Which, by the way, if he's your only big man on the court, it's pretty risky to put him that high, and because if they get behind him, now it's like, who's protecting the rim?
And they tried that at times.
Yeah,
and it didn't really
sometimes
work.
It works because you'll get a hand on a ball and it get
But that's asking something from KAT that I think KAT is not going to thrive at. Now he's going to be put in an exact position to thrive.
Yeah, man, or it could train wreck, as John Hollinger writes at the end of the article. And you know what? If it train wrecks, whatever, then you trade one of them for a couple first-round picks next year or the year after.
I don't know what train wrecks with this coach.
But there's always a way out. People are making this sound like there's no way out now.
Right.
This is it. Okay. Well, so if it doesn't work in the next couple of years and they don't do anything in the playoffs, you're telling me that you can't trade Rudy Gobert for a couple first-round picks at age 32, still a great defensive player? You can't trade Karl Anthony Towns with 4 years left in his prime or whatever? Like, there's always a move. There's always something. And Anthony Edwards, that's the thing about all this. Anthony Edwards is, if you're going to win a championship at some point, he's the guy that's going to be the driver of this thing. And he's 21 years old. So he's only gonna benefit from this team being better, from there just being a leader like Gobert on the court, in the locker room. I'm struggling to see all of the. Declan brought it up a couple days ago on Statements. He was the first one to say, "What are we worried about? Who cares if it doesn't work out to a championship level? This is going to make the Wolves relevant and play competitive playoff basketball, and maybe, as John Hollinger says, maybe they are creating a paradigm shift in the NBA. We'll have to wait and see."
And the idea of the paradigm shift, I mean, this happens all the time. It happened in hockey like 8 years ago where you had a bunch of young guys, like Johnny Gaudreau came in, and it was all about these young, smaller dudes. Martin St. Louis, before him, where it was these smaller guys. Oh, need the small forwards. Forget about the big, bruising, physical 6'4" power forwards that can just crash the net. And then the paradigm shifted back to that a little bit. You saw the Florida Panthers last year in hockey be the best offensive team in the NHL by far. President's Trophy. They were going to steamroll their way to the Stanley Cup. They faced adversity and they got swept by Tampa Bay in the second round. Last year in the NBA, Boston Celtics, right? Number one defense in the NBA. Not going to blow you away necessarily with their 3-point. You don't look at their 3-point shooting on paper and say, man, they're really scary. But their defense is what really carried them, and they were 2 games away from winning an NBA championship. So paradigms in sports are always shifting. They're always changing. Baseball, same thing with relievers and starting pitching now, right? Like, we're now in super bullpen mode. It's a normal thing in sports that things will just obviously eventually change.
Well, and don't forget, too, with KAT, you've got a special player, and I love the fact that they are now saying, go to it. Like, this is a great challenge for him. This is exactly what you should do with a star player at this juncture of his career, which is to say, you're really good, you've done a lot of good things, and now it's time to take a step. This is going to, in one way or another, basically flush him out, either as a superstar who's unbelievable or he can't do it. Like, this is the final challenge, and I love that. No, seriously, this is where you got to find. This is his final challenge. This is where we're going to find out. Like, we've always been like, well, if KAT had this, if KAT had that, right? Well, now he's got that. This is it for him, and if he goes the right direction, there's championship potential.
Yeah, this is.
I love that.
This is just it's. This is going to be so much fun to. I mean, we have to wait 3 months until they actually, I think training camp is but no, Summer League is this week, and we're going to get to see. Yeah, the Vegas Summer League. We're already watching the Salt Lake City Summer League with some of the other teams. So we're going to get a little taste of some young players, but we won't get to actually watch what this thing looks like for 3.5 months. Shout out, we posted an episode yesterday, Kyle Tigey and I, Flagrant Howls, our new Timberwolves podcast under the Mackie and Judd umbrella, SKOR North YouTube channel. So Judd's Hockey Show has always had its little island, and you've always been asking, when are you going to have your little basketball island? Well, we have it now. We're 2 episodes in to Flagrant Howls. Kyle was on a plane to Mexico, I think, for a wedding or something. So he landed. He had the Wi-Fi on the plane, and he still had access to the Wi-Fi as they were landing, and saw, oh my God, they traded for Gobert, but he didn't see what the return was. But as soon as the wheels hit the ground, the Wi-Fi went out, and you don't get reception when you're in Mexico. So he had to like go to the, I don't know. He found some connection in the airport or something. But yeah, interesting
Wi-Fi
experience.
went out?
Well, yeah,
the plane Wi-Fi.
lands.
Oh, the plane
shut
Wi-Fi.
off.
Okay.
Your cellular, not all cellular devices.
So once
work.
once you get off the plane, you're fine. Okay.
Once you get off the plane, you have to. Well, you could find Wi-Fi somewhere else, but if your phone doesn't work in a different country, then you're screwed.
You know what? That's why I don't leave this country.
That's why.
That's
if a big
exactly
trade goes down,
that's
I ain't
why.
leaving this country.
Hey, you brought up string beans and carrots earlier in the show here. What does your regimen look like on Livia? You can have a little fun with it. You don't have to just be eating string beans for every meal.
Some exciting news, too. This just in, as we were talking about the Wolves, I told you this last week. Dawn has joined me on the weight loss lifestyle program. And she just went to the center today. Down 10 pounds. She's now down 10 pounds. So the Judd and Dawn weight loss Livia lifestyle program, it's working great. I'm down. Of course, I've been talking about this for a while. 40 pounds. I'm maintaining that. Dawn has lost 10 pounds on her weight loss journey as well. And you know what? Teamwork is extremely important because we're supportive of each other now. You make meals together that are healthy. And here's the best part. Simple Start Plan, only $59. So like you and your wife, girlfriend, you can join too. Start to drop the weight today. I'm going to tell you right now, together, it's even more fun. 855-GO-LIVEA, Livia.com, Livia.com, inside the state or out, because you can basically do the entire thing, or you can virtually, Livia.com. Let me suggest, though, doing it with your wife or girlfriend is a great idea because the satisfaction and the teamwork is really rewarding.
Love it. All right, every Thursday, Declan goes into the Twitter archives and finds incriminating things that we have tweeted. Things that are wrong in retrospect. It's called Old Tweets Exposed here on Mackie and Judd. Okay,
so I told you about the Norv Turner tweets that I wanted to bring to the light when we did a pecking order a few weeks ago. And I'm going to bring those to the show. But I also did a little Walker Kessler cleanse because I wanted to. Did we have any Walker Kessler takes in the 7 days that Walker Kessler was here in Minnesota? And we didn't. We had nothing incriminating, but when I typed in Kessler, I found a really interesting Phil Mackey tweet about the Cleveland Browns that needs to be exposed and just talked about. People ripping on the Browns for not drafting a quarterback. I commend them. Take another look at Cody Kessler in 17, pounce on a quarterback in 18. What struck you to have Cody Kessler takes on draft night in 2017?
I don't remember.
Were you drunk? It's late.
So
it's
this
11
was
o'clock.
2017
draft.
Well,
night.
no, this would have been draft night. I was working. But why am I tweeting about the Browns? So people ripping on the Browns for not drafting a quarterback. I commend them. Take another look at Cody Kessler in 17. I think what I'm saying there is, don't reach for a quarterback. I think Cody Kessler must have played some games or something in 2016. And oh my God, what Johnny K say? Some people who cheered them wildly for trading. Oh yeah, there you go. Same people who cheered them wildly for trading up to take Brady Quinn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And for trading up to get Brandon Weeden and Johnny Manziel. Look at you and Johnny having some Cleveland Browns draft.
Johnny and I go way back. Cody Kessler in 2016 went 0-8 for the Browns, but he did throw 6 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions. And had a 92.3 passer rating. So I think what I was saying is, why don't you go and he was a 3rd-round pick by the Browns in 2016. He wasn't a train wreck. Better to give him another shot and wait for a better quarterback draft. I think that's all I was saying. And then didn't they wind up with Baker Mayfield?
Yeah, that worked out.
Who was pretty good for them for a couple of years.
It worked out great. Got traded.
Well, let's say it worked
Carolina.
out great. But he took them to the playoffs.
What are the Browns doing?
They're back to being the Browns.
But I mean, what the hell are they doing?
What do you mean? What are they doing?
They have a quarterback who might be suspended indefinitely,
Well,
and
he'll play at some point. A couple of years from now.
who will his coach be? Poor Kevin Stefanski's gonna.
Well, they might get a 4th-round pick if Baker Mayfield plays like 70% of the snaps, or 5th-round pick.
What's
4th
Sam
round pick.
Darnold
No.
and Baker Mayfield on the same team?
That's a pillow fight. All right. So there's my Cody Kessler take exposed.
All right, here's your Norv Turner take. If I'm a head coach looking to mix things up, I'd probably hire Norv Turner as my O coordinator and Lovie Smith as a D coordinator. December 31st, 2012. Look at you.
I called it.
Spewing Norv Turner. You did call it. I'm giving you credit here, yeah.
That was
you called
before.
Norv
That was
Turner.
before Write That Down was a thing.
Yeah.
Judd and I hadn't even started
I know-
doing our show
I
together.
know you don't get a point.
Retroactively, I feel like I just.
No. You, Doogie doesn't
for that
get
one.
2 points for a good question, and you don't get a point for that.
I don't remember at all tweeting or thinking that, so I'm not really sure what. Maybe I think Norv Turner must have just gotten fired. Maybe Lovie Smith and Norv Turner just got
the
fired or
charges.
something. That's probably what it was.
Well,
Okay.
Speaking of calling things, let's look at what I had to say on this. Who knows? Maybe Zimmer keeps himself
Norv
as a
Turner.
defensive coordinator and Norv Turner on the offense, and I'm liking the sound of this. I'm liking the sound of Norv Turner Mike Zimmer relationship here, even though it failed miserably. Well, not
Okay,
miserably.
was this? There must have been reports. By the way, classic Declan misspelling Turner there too.
I sort of like
Yep.
Norv
Missed
Truner.
Wade.
Truner.
He changed his ID.
Truner?
I'm not Norv Turner.
I'm
I'm
not
Norv Truner.
I'm Norv Truner. What are you talking
Norv
about?
Truner, PI. I'm here to investigate your offense.
Norv Truner. All right, Judd Zolgad.
We're all very excited for that pairing. It was a good pairing for like I don't know, a few months.
Oh yeah. This was
May
actually
8th,
right.
2014. My thoughts on the QB decision. Norv Turner might be the most important person sitting in Winter Park right now.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
wasn't Norv in on Teddy? Norv
Yeah,
was
in
the
fact,
Teddy
he's
guy,
the-
right?
Yeah, because Teddy had the bad pro day because he didn't wear gloves.
Didn't wear the gloves.
And then Norv went down to Miami and told Rick and Mike, I will work him out privately. And he's the one, I think, that came back and said,
And he can
"Draft
wear
him."
2 pairs of gloves on each hand
Yeah.
if he wants to.
And you know what? He was right.
He can wear mittens if he,
He was
wants to.
right. That was a really good pick there. It's too bad it didn't work out.
I think Judd gets the win for calling Norv Turner the most important person
He
in
was.
the building, and
It's
then
'cause
just
Rick
being
could-
gone like a year later.
Well, one is I think you win. Oh. No, he was the most important person.
Was he
Yeah.
more
he told-
important than Rick Spielman and Mike
he
Zimmer?
told, he told him to draft Teddy.
He was an important person. I don't know that he was the most
Told him to
important
draft
person.
Teddy because Rick said, I don't know. I can't identify a quarterback to save my life. And he was right about that.
So there it is. Old tweets exposed here on Mackie and Judd.
But I'll take the win if I can get it, sure.
Or the L, I guess. I don't know how this works.
Whatever it is, I don't care. I'll take it.
Tomorrow we're going to go Feedback Friday. We're collecting all of your thoughts, and there's some stuff going back 2 weeks too, because I don't think we did Feedback Friday last Friday as we took a long weekend, and then we're thrust into the Rudy Gobert conversation. But Action Movie Rewind tomorrow as well. Face Off, another mid-90s classic. Judd's first time I think ever
Already
seen
got my
this
notes.
movie.
Watched it
Yeah.
on Monday.
I watched
Already got
it
all my
last night.
notes. Very
Amazing.
Last
interesting.
night.
I have a couple questions off that I'll save for
No, just
for
a couple.
tomorrow. Yeah, a lot of
I don't-
logistical questions.
2 questions. The rest
Yeah.
of it's very plausible.
All right, that's a wrap. Mackie and Judd on this Reckless Speculation Thursday. To all who celebrate, we'll see you guys tomorrow.